okay? But we realize there's still a lot of work to be done. Economic development, housing, homelessness, and we're here reaffirming that.
Steve Clausen, California News.
At AT&T, we believe that access to affordable home internet brings incredible opportunities. Explore a digital world of possibilities and connect with family, friends, and the things that matter most. That's why there's access from AT&T. If you are a California resident and a member of your household participates in SNAP or receives SSI benefits, you may qualify for home internet at a discounted rate of $10 a month. No commitment, no deposit, no installation fee. Plus, get an in-home Wi-Fi gateway at no extra cost. Call 1-855-220-5211 or visit att.com/aware to learn more.
SNAP refers to the Federal Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. SSI refers to the Federal Supplemental Security Income Program. Pricing excludes taxes and fees. Service will include a monthly data allowance depending on the type and speed of service you receive. If you exceed your monthly data plan allowance, you will be automatically charged $10 for each 50 gigabytes of data usage in excess of your data plan, even if less than 50 gigabytes is used. For details about data allowances, go to att.com/internet-usage. Wi-Fi enabled device required. Other restrictions apply.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. A longer video is putting more context into a viral incident where a group of teenagers appear to be taunting a Native American elder. The longer footage shows that members of a group called the Black Hebrew Israelites were helping to instigate things. Students from Kentucky have been widely criticized because an earlier, shorter video shows the classmates in Washington, D.C. surrounding Native American activist Nathan Phillips hollering and wearing Make America Great Again hats. This week, Congress is expected to vote on the president's border proposal as the partial government shutdown continues. President Trump and Congress have been in a gridlock over funding the $6 billion in border wall funding. Police in the Chicago suburb of Orland Park are investigating a shooting at a mall. Deputy Joseph Mitchell of Orland Park PD described what happened tonight.
A male black described as about 6'1", with black clothing on and blue jeans, fired and struck one individual. That individual's been transported to the Christ Hospital at this point. I don't have a status on him.
The suspect is on the run. Newly announced 2020 presidential candidate Kamala Harris may bring her campaign headquarters to Baltimore.
The Baltimore Sun reports the 54-year-old California Democratic senator is planning to set up shop in Baltimore due to its diversity and its proximity to Washington, D.C., but she also plans to operate a West Coast sister office in her native Oakland. It's unclear exactly when those offices might open, as Harris made her White House run official just Monday morning. Tom Roberts, NBC News Radio.
Christopher Columbus paintings are being covered up at the University of Notre Dame. The murals in the university's main building were painted in the 1880s and portray Columbus as an Italian explorer in the Americas. Notre Dame's president, Reverend John Jenkins, said that at the time the paintings were created, they were meant to address challenges to the school's immigrant population. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio.
Are you having trouble sleeping? Are you always tired and worn out? Is it affecting your work and personal life? Well, South Pacific Sleep Lab can help you out. South Pacific Sleep Lab provides a personal study of your sleep patterns. With their trained specialists, they will diagnose your sleep habits and will give you a prognosis for getting a great relaxing night of sleep. South Pacific Sleep Lab has locations throughout Southern California, including Fontana, and will provide transportation to any of their locations at no cost to you. To find out more, give them a call at 844-SAD-5050. That's 844-SAD-5050. South Pacific Sleep Lab. Start resting easy and sleeping sound today.
Psst. Hey, you. Yeah, you. Do you know where you are? Well, you've done it now. You're listening to KCAA Loma Linda, your CNBC news station. So expect the unexpected.
Well, it winds from Chicago What's up, team? This is Robert Porter with the I Love San Bernardino County radio show on KCAA NBC 106.5 FM, 102.3 FM, 1050 AM, where we will talk history, politics, and a little bit of culture. We got our engineer Nick in the back and my famous co-host Carmel Rowe in the house. Woo! All right. Today we have the famous now in San Bernardino First Ward Councilman Theodore Sanchez. Yay! Second Ward Councilwoman Sandra Barra. Yay! And local scientist and animal advocate and wildlife advocate and just playing around crazy guy at Mr. Al Kelly.
And he knows about the toxic dump in Ukaipa.
Totally. All right. So we're getting a little tiny bit of cracking into my ear there, Nick. So yeah, a little bit tiny bit of crackly. Okay. Today I'd like to start off our history early with happy birthday to Dr. Martin Luther King, a great man. Actually, there's a cool statue of Mr. King right over there in front of our old city hall, and some cool history there. They had an event there today, and then a prayer. No, not there. They had a prayer breakfast up at Cal State San Bernardino today. But I'd like to go over a little bit of Martin Luther history for you all, so we can have a little insight into his wonderful life. He was a very courageous man. He was born in January 15th, 1929. He was assassinated April 4th, 1968 by a racist. In 1959, Dr. King went to India. So I brought this up because some people don't. I've never heard this fact, and I thought it was pretty cool. So in 1959, Dr. King went to India on a pilgrimage during the roar of the Civil Rights Movement. In Indian, Gandhian philosophies of nonviolent social change influenced him further, and Gandhi's people celebrated King's approach in the Montgomery bus boycott. So the Montgomery bus boycott was against the policy of racial segregation. This started with Rosa Parks protesting by refusing to give up her seat to a white person on December 5th, 1955. Then victory! Victory with nonviolence on June 4th, 1956. The courts ruled that racial segregation on buses was unconstitutional. So a little insight into Dr. King. So he was already using nonviolent protest following Rosa Parks' lead earlier than his trip to India. But he went to India and then learned more about the nonviolent way of protesting from Gandhi's followers. And that's so important to not think that you already know all the ways to do something. It's always important to learn more and study others and study the Dalai Lama, study Gandhi, study Martin Luther King, see what they did. Not all of it applies to today, but some of it absolutely applies to today. And I think we have a racial problem here in the United States and in San Bernardino that we need to look at a little bit closer. I don't think we're all treated equally here in our city and in our country. And we need to start looking at it that way because we all are humans before any race, any creed, any religion. We're all humans first. So that's where I stand today, and I want to dedicate this whole show to Martin Luther King Jr. and everything that he did for San Bernardino and for the United States of America and the world.
I just wanted to say that, Martin Luther King, he wants us all to love our neighbors, and sometimes it's hard to love our neighbors, but that if we go that extra way and we love our neighbors, then we strengthen our neighborhoods, which then strengthens our community. And I got to be the first one to say it's not easy to love your neighbors, but it's something that we should work on because, like my mom always tells me, it's very easy to love and pray for people that you love. Well, do it for people you don't really like. That's what God requires. So,
would you like to say something about Martin Luther King Jr.?
He in this country and I've mentioned this before, we have admired.
Turn the mic on.
Oh, it's not on.
Yeah, there you go.
I thought someone here forgot. Okay, so I'd mentioned this before. here in the United States, we've admired leaders who have fought for people who have had no voice, and Martin Luther King is first and foremost among those people. I mean, we looked up to Abraham Lincoln, who fought to create equality, and to bring equal rights to a slave population that we had since the birth of our country. We did it with FDR, with the disenfranchised poor, and then
in the New
Martin
Deal.
Luther King, and then Martin Luther King with this. So I think it's deeply enrooted in us, despite the fact that there's our darker angels constantly pull that we don't need to be fighting to continue to bring equality to those who have been disenfranchised in this country. I think that we still, our better selves, admire those who stand up and toe that line and say, no, I will fight for those who can't fight for themselves. So he is that character.
Sandra, what do you think about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.?
His dream lives on. It's funny how a couple of weeks ago I was talking to one of my bosses. I work for a home ownership agency, and she was asking me about the population, the ethnic groups in the second ward, and I told her, there's majority is Hispanic, but we also have a huge proportion that are African American, and then some that are Caucasian, but the majority is people of color in our neighborhoods. And the saddest part is, because she does not realize how many African American are in the second ward, and I said, trust me, you would be shocked how many we have. The only problem is the majority of them are renters. Mm-hmm. We don't have that much in home ownership, so I think where I work at, we're gonna start focusing more on helping them become homeowners.
It truly is shocking to know that not everyone can be a homeowner.
Everyone can be a homeowner.
And that is the American dream.
And everybody.
It should be everyone has a home.
Well, let me tell you, I have sold a house to a woman who collects her welfare check before, and it was legally, and no fraudulent paperwork, no any of that. Mm-hmm. So anybody can be a homeowner. It doesn't, because you get to count that income for 3 years, going forward. As long as it's continuing, you got a 12-year-old kid, it's going to continue to their 18. You can buy a house. So people should just speak up or ask or inquire about it and not just kind of cut it out, because anybody really can become a homeowner. And they have very, city programs, county program, all kind of programs that HUD and the government kick in funds every year to create homeownership.
And that would be letting freedom ring, right? I mean, Dr. King, not only they were fighting to just let African Americans and white people on the bus. Now, another interesting aspect of the civil rights movement is it part of the original starting of it happened right here in San Bernardino. And it was based off of letting people go to the swimming pool, Mexicans, whether they were allowed in swimming pools or not. And what was happening is they were only allowed in the swimming pools on Saturday, I believe. That's because on Sunday they would drain the pool.
Don't forget the 215 freeway was the other one.
And this was with Mayor Judith Valles. I actually learned a lot of this from her little book. A very interesting book, by the way.
What's the name of it?
My mother says, yeah. Pretty cool.
Something about mi madre.
Yeah.
My mama.
But it's like a bunch of sayings that she said when she was younger. But her dad was a fighter, and that fight that started right here in our melting pot lifted up the whole nation, right? And now they did stuff in Alabama and the trash riot, the trash protests and stuff. But for that to have happened here in San Bernardino, that means that we should embrace some of that history, and more people need to know about it. Carmel, now, did you do anything today for Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday?
No.
Well, you are right this second.
I did nothing today. Actually, that's why I did things. Ran my kids around. Wished I was enjoying my day off, but.
Now, this is what did San Bernardino, did we have something, or?
Well, I went to the breakfast.
Went to the breakfast, okay.
Went to the breakfast, and then instead of going to the the event that they had downtown by City Hall, I went to actually the San Bernardino shelter.
Okay.
To take a look at it, get a tour, and then we went to Riverside Shelter, take a tour.
We did. That's what we did.
We had a busy day.
Well, that's a perfect segue into our next subject, the shelter, right? Let's talk about what you guys did today, and did you learn anything new? Go ahead.
Sure. The Riverside Shelter it does not compare to the San Bernardino Shelter at all.
No, it's a beautiful place.
It is over 12 acres of nothing but shelter, rest. It was beautiful. I think they said it cost them about $32 million to build it. But our shelter is probably like a tenth of the size.
And we're talking about animal shelters, right?
The animal shelters, correct.
The animal shelter we have here in San Bernardino, what is it, 50 years old? The one.
That's where I got my cats when I was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's old.
the roof is about to collide at the original animal shelter building.
It's going to collapse over there, huh?
Yeah. There's mold inside the frames. There's
it's been neglected for so long.
Buildings with animals.
To be honest, when I went there, like the first time I went there in a long time was after I'd been there since a kid, was when we went to see the pig that they found about 5 years ago. They found a pig, yeah. And there was a big old deal. They were going to adopt it out, and I went in and I was like, wait, is this place even changed since I was a kid?
Mm-hmm.
Like it looks like they just slapped a little paint on it here or there.
And I want to make that call, for all the rescue groups that go speak on behalf of the animals, to please get together and, help us fundraise that $18 million we need for a new shelter.
They told me they were going to.
I hope so. We're waiting for some letter of intents to be turned in or RFPs.
They told me they were working on it with their lawyer.
Yes.
To collect the money?
But
the whole RFP, the whole letter of intent, the whole.
Hopefully we get that going.
They have the money behind them. That's what they told me.
Because just seriously, this is a big issue within the community, and it could easily be remedied if we all work together, and I hope we could get at least a majority of the people happy with what comes out of it. Not everyone's going to always be happy with everything, but as long as we can get those kill rates down and get these animals adopted out, that's my main concern. Because like just killing animals for no reason, that's just.
Well, Riverside, instead of euthanizing the animals now, they're having them as guests, right? Or what was the name they gave them?
Oh, you mean a couple working cats?
Yeah, the cats.
Yeah, there were a couple cats that were going to be euthanized, and it's a huge facility. They have how many acres? A couple dozen acres of property dedicated to that animal shelter in Riverside, and so they actually have a couple dozen cats that run around collecting the rodents.
Okay.
Collecting the rodents.
Ingredients at the entrance.
Great little cats, and they're running around. The facility's spectacular. And I will tell you this, the staff in San Bernardino is doing as best they can. And it shows. The place is pretty clean. It's just that the building looks like it's about to collapse.
So that property itself has been rumored for before you guys even ran for office that it was going to be sold to the water company, right? And they've been kind of looking at it here or there. Now I heard originally that the water company was or originally might have been the one that wanted to be the center shelter for the whole area, right? And they were kind of pushing towards that, but it didn't come to fruition, right?
Fruition. Well, no, I thought we did. I thought we used to, what is it? Grand Terrace, Loma Linda, a couple other smaller cities used to contract with us.
Yeah,
and they've all now contracted with Riverside.
Yeah, we could have. So something has switched in there, right? Some kind of politics hit it up. So they'll probably have to find a new spot to build a new shelter. Is there a way to do both? Do you have to? Can you partially contract with Riverside for some things, and then as we build the new shelter, the services go to that, or?
Jackie, the staff lady who gave us a tour of the Riverside shelter, alluded to that exactly. Those were her parting words. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. There is a middle ground. What that middle ground is, I don't know.
It's up to us.
It's up to us.
The middle ground is finding a way to to get these animals adopted out, right? But not putting them through undue abuse, like in a hot vehicle traveling in traffic for 3 hours, right? So but if it's like a horse or they need pups because they've adopted them all out or whatever, I don't want to be yay or nay, no or yes. I think there is room for compromise for both here, but it's definitely, you want to keep the dog advocates and cat advocates happy.
Well, me personally, whether it's the dog advocates or the cat advocates happy, the whole thing in my mind is that the animals and the animal shelter, they bring a lot of love that brings a lot of money behind them. And I think that we as a city need all of that, and that we should embrace it. I don't think we should keep giving away our money and our love and all of our things that are really, it's an asset. Like, we're looking at this as a liability, but it's really not a liability. In the long run, it's really an asset.
So we have to now don't have to speak exactly about how you would vote on something like this, but in general, how do you feel about trying to create a San Bernardino shelter still, but utilizing the services for a time being of the Riverside County to get the animals out of that? Is that possible, or it's like
well, I mean, if we can come up with $18 million to build a new shelter, I'm all for it.
Okay.
$18 million is what it would take to build a new shelter.
That's crazy.
So it cost 32 for the one in Riverside. I think there was one that they alluded to in Corona. They own the city owned the city owned the property. The city owned a warehouse building, so they built one there. How much was the amount?
2.9 million.
2.9 million.
Like 5 years ago.
But I guess they built that 5 years ago. But since then, they've spent another $1.5 million, $2 million in upgrades that were required by law. So we have to be very careful, because once we commit to this, and we are committing a couple $1 million, we have to be aware that if we're not doing this right, this is going to keep on costing us a couple $1 million every year, and we're not providing the quality we need to provide to these animals. Because I'm an animal lover. I don't know of anyone who isn't. And what I want is politics out of the welfare of these animals. So if we are just keeping these animals here because we think, no, they need to be here in San Bernardino, and they're worse off than they would be in another city, then I think we're doing a disservice we're doing a disservice to the animals.
So with DeVore, does DeVore provide services for San Manuel when they need animal control? Like, I'm just wondering, like, if there's a way we can.
Well, when there's a fire, they do.
Partner up with San Manuel, partner up with the county, and then also work with Riverside County. So, like, maybe we can expand on the shelter in San Bernardino County over there in Navarre. I mean, that's super close. So when there is too many animals, to make it to Riverside when it's hot or too cold or whatever the reason being, they can take some of the animals over there too. It just seems like this is something we could all work together as a community on. I mean, you're right, the dogs don't necessarily have to be exactly in San Bernardino, but I think what the advocates are trying to prevent is just them getting hurt and euthanized. So if we can stop that, that should solve most of the problem.
Well, last year council did approve up to 12 free adoption days for the city.
Ooh, that's good.
And we haven't been utilizing that. And that was approved by the council in June 2017. So not last year, a year and a half ago.
So if you can adopt a dog, go get one.
Yeah, the other one is the Daisy's Hope Foundation is about to open up or have a grand opening on their pet resource center up at the airport area. And that's another one that I mentioned actually to Lieutenant McComber today. It's like, yeah, we have Daisy's Hope Foundation that's about to open up their resource center, and that's what they do, the spay, neutering, vaccinations. Wow, and that could also help us out. The one thing that I think can definitely help our pets are the pets that are either strays, are hurt, or have illnesses. That's the population of animals I would consider perhaps taking to Riverside so they can have the proper attention. We saw their veterinary rooms that they have. They have the staff to help those animals, rehab them back and put them back into the population. But in the meantime, that would probably be the only animals I wouldn't mind taking out to Riverside, and the rest we can keep them here and just allow for the free adoption to happen.
All right, and
just some ideas.
Yeah, all of them need to be on the table, because if there's not, there's no piece of property, there's no new shelter. We just have this old one. It's not working, so we have to find something. An interesting thing is that the dog shelter is the cement's warmed by warm water from our hot springs.
The geothermal water.
Yeah, that. One little factoid for you guys. I thought that was pretty interesting. So, like, I was worried about them sleeping on the cold floor, but that's...
They ran a little thermometer, and they kept it at a constant 88 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So
my grandpa did a lot a lot of stuff back in the day.
Oh, did he? Yeah.
Moved around the hot water to heat our buildings in downtown San Bernardino.
Yeah.
That's a pretty little side aspect, but doesn't mean the dogs don't need a bed. You know, I let my pups sleep in my blankets.
Well, I mean, I think the issue is that I think there's some sort of contagious bacterial infections that can get passed on when you have one blanket going from one animal to another.
Oh.
And so we have to make sure. Look, I'm a big believer that sometimes you have to be aware of all the facts and the experts and the ones who know what's going on there. You have to take a little bit of weight to what they say. The staff there gave me no reason not to believe what they had to say, and so they made it pretty clear. Look, there are some cases where we can't provide that. They literally have a residential dryer and washer to wash and dry these blankets that they use for these animals. I'm talking a dryer and washer that's small than the dryer.
We have at home.
Yeah.
Almost smaller than, but smaller than the one I have at home. And we're talking about
industrial size.
I can throw like 4 loads in mine.
Yeah, well, so I think we have to be aware that there are some cases where you know what, do we for optics do we give them a blanket and then we have a couple dozen dogs die from communicable diseases?
Right.
All right. Sometimes the difficult decisions have to be made. And
I personally think they should get a doggy bag when they come in jail. And just like with the prisoners that we have, they get a pillow and some.
And you know what? the Riverside shelter, they do consultations when their owners surrendered animals. I don't think we do that here.
Oh,
and that's something that it would be nice that we start doing, but of course we need the staffing for it. But when somebody comes to bring in a 15-year-old dog that they've had all their life, like, why are you giving up your dog? Right. And then, find them. Like, you gotta take care of your best friend.
We have to take responsibility for our animals too and get them spayed and neutered.
Correct.
So we're not creating like problems later on.
Well, I know my neighbor. She grabs all the feral cats in our neighborhood, and she takes them to the shelter to get spayed and neutered.
Wow, that's so nice of her.
She's helping. She's doing her part.
So thanks for talking about that hard subject. I mean,
yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah. And I know these decisions are not going to be easy.
They're not going to make a lot of people happy.
Yeah, but if you got ideas, you better get them involved right now. You got to get these ideas rolling, because we got to start somewhere. And to me, it feels like it's moving towards Riverside County Shelter.
Not all of them.
Yeah, so if you have something to say, you better make sure and say it. And we need ideas and solutions. We don't just need complaints.
I want a Taj Mahal animal shelter here too.
Yeah. The Lowe's building is perfect.
But I don't think it's...
If this county can spend another $30 million on top of the $80 million they had on their Taj Mahal, they can front San Bernardino some money.
Go to the county. That's another idea.
Well,
okay.
Did you guys realize, when it was raining and pouring down last week, how many homeless people were out in the street?
Lots.
Like, we all care about the dogs, and we all love the dogs, but, man, just driving down the street, seeing people laying in trash bags, that was just...
Yeah, well,
that was just gut-wrenching.
I seen my best friend over there on Hallmark and University, and I seen his wife, and I looked at her and I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks like she looked like she was 80 years old, and she's my age, and then I looked over and I seen my Marine Corps buddy that, I always looked up to in high school and everything, and hunched over like he's 80 years old too. And there's no way that they're going to leave heroin. Mm-hmm. They're not.
And that's something that people who are advocating for the animals versus the homeless, that's what they're saying. At least a person has that choice. But an animal doesn't. That's the only difference.
Well, sometimes when you're too far gone, you got no choice.
You got no choice, but we can't force them into a shelter either.
Yeah. This is going to be hard. And there was always growing up that one hobo that he didn't want to go to the shelter because he wanted to drink his butt off all night, But then there's also, I meet them in Starbucks all the time. These youngsters, your age, that they don't know what to do. They just lost everything, and they're sitting there and they're sleeping at Wildwood. Mm-hmm. And Wildwood is no place to sleep very long. Otherwise, you get stuck. You get stuck in this weird cycle. Yeah.
It's still better than in Ukaipa. Tragically, everybody's sleeping in canyons, and the sheriffs pick them up, take their IDs, take everything, take them to West End for one night, and release them with nothing, no ID. So they are totally helpless.
I don't know how to solve this issue, and it is out of control, huge. But I'm glad that you two are in there and you're definitely taking a look at this. I mean, I always hear people talking about helping the homeless, right? But last council did things like that one center over there at Second Lake.
Access Center?
Yeah.
That was a total complete.
The guy's making more money. The guy is literally making more money in a salary than he's giving out. And they okayed that? To me, it's just not. Where was their common sense?
Or their conscience.
Yeah. If you look at the budget and it's laid out, and the biggest thing is the salary of the guy operating it, doesn't that wake you up? It's just some of those decisions were amazing to me, and that's why I'm glad it's kind of been a regime change where there's more youth orientated people on the council now, and fresh ideas. They were stuck in this old way and constantly.
I think some are still stuck in the old ways.
Oh my gosh!
But with that, I think with that was my accent coming out. I think with time we'll be able to show them a vision.
Listen to your elders, but don't, as if you are an elder, don't be afraid of the possibility of new ideas, and you all may try things that Fred and Mulvihill may end up loving in 10 years. They don't know.
Or tomorrow.
Yeah. It's just you gotta give your colleagues a chance.
You have to take action.
And now vice versa too. Now there's no reason why you can't listen occasionally to the old guys up there. But seriously, for a while there, it looked like a bunch of old white men were running our city, and. I'm not down with that. Why? Because we have 70% Latino in our city, and I believe that we should be represented as such. And that means good things for our city, right? It means good history that we're not normally delving into. It means excellent food. It means great culture. So if we embrace these things, San Bernardino can do nothing but rise. And it's not rising just from the 7th Ward over there by the Arrowhead Country Club.
It's all of us.
Look, so just to kind of touch on the point you just made, there's a reason why we have district elections and not citywide elections for the council. All you have to do is look at the voter turnout in my ward for the council race. Less than 3,000 people. And you look at it up in the 4th Ward, how many people voted for the council race?
Over 4,000, no? Or 8,000?
8,000, 9,000. So you take a look at those numbers. If we would have had citywide races, you would have 5 of the 7, if not 6 of the 7 council members from that one neighborhood. So I'm going to be honest with you, and this is where we can disagree, but we can agree to disagree here. A lot of it is just your upbringing, your background. I don't care if you're black, brown, or white, but when you're from my neighborhood, you come from a very different perspective. You come from a very different place than you do if you're from the country club area or if you're from further north there.
Oh, yeah, like
absolutely, you need that perspective.
Even in high school,
you
like,
need that perspective.
You knew who the North Enders were, and you knew, and like I hung out down by 3rd Street in Court, like with all the homies. Like that's how it is. And I knew that I had to act a little bit different when I went up to the North Enders and hung out with them. So it's always been that way, but it's so important to have these ward elections for that precise reason, because we'd end up with a bunch of people from the north.
Five or six would be from the same block, from the same neighborhood, and you'd have one from the south side. And let me tell you, resources would get really thin on the south side of town,
and they still do disproportionately, even though we.
It's a tale of two. It's a tale of two cities, and you can see that sometimes on dais during council meetings, because there is this separation. Well, in my part of town, this is what we need. Well, when we're up there, we got to represent the whole city, not just your little neighborhood.
So
you got to.
I have a hard question for you.
Uh-oh.
So have you heard about the possibility of the owners of Arrowhead Country Club dividing it in half and building apartments on one half?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so this was always a joke for my neighborhood, right? In my neighborhood on Formacha Drive, it's a very nice neighborhood, but at the bottom of it, right next to what used to be Sizzler, and it's now a Chinese restaurant, but in Highland there, they built apartments, right? And for my whole life, that's where the bike ring was, that's where all the drugs were always sold out of, but we just dealt with it. But we always would joke, yeah, they'll never get apartments up, above the 30 freeway, and this and that. So, like, to me, it's kind of like, whoa, the roosters, the hens come to roost. Or,
but Robert, part of that, I hate to say, comes from the new Democratic governor, Newsom. Mm-hmm. He's talking about new housing, but there was a great article in there, the economist for this area, who's the most terrible economist of all time, John Hussing. He basically said, we're getting ready for a recession. He also pointed out the housing glut that we have. There are over 120,000 units between Yucaipa and Loma Linda and San Bernardino. So there's housing here. Unfortunately, look what's happening in Redlands with the train, $250 million choo-choo to nowhere, which we told Pete Aguilar, you put $1 federal money in it, we're going to get Paul Chabot back from Texas, buddy. So Pete knows, but the thing is,
Paul ain't ever coming back here.
No. After they okayed the train, and they didn't even use public meetings, they had it at ESRI with no input into it. 2 weeks ago at the Redlands City Council, there was a meeting. Well, in order to facilitate federal funds, you have to increase the density. So now they just told everybody, oh, by the way, we have to put in 2,900 new apartments. This scam is going to...
Redlands?
Yes, yep.
Yeah, they're not going for that.
Oh, yes, they are. They're pushing... This is all developers'
What about
money.
not in my neighborhood?
Well, we're going to be NIMBYs, you bet.
Well, I was out in like Bloomington, Fontana, Colton area, and they had these real nice frontier homes. And it's like it's the planned unit development, but they're like 5-bedroom, 3-bed, but they're real close. They're real close, no yards, but they have the whole community area, and it was home ownership. Like, if you want to build something, you can do that. Just build it to own.
Right. So before we get off the Arrowhead Country Club in the apartment thing, let me say how I feel. Even though that I think it's a joking thing, we need that golf course.
Open space.
Besides that, it's going to be for the rich and famous, unless Sam and Will's building another one right above it, which is possible. I'm not totally sure on their property at Springs. This golf course will be where the rich and famous come when they're coming to visit Sam and Will. So there could be a way to turn that into something that could really help the whole community. But it's been private for so long, right? And just barely turned public. And you can tell they're hurting over there. Like,
how long ago was that now?
When
did they make public that?
Like a year and a half ago?
A year and a half ago, they pulled off the private part on the sign. I was like, wow, they really did it. And when I was there this weekend, and you can tell that it's starting to get a little run down a little bit, So it needs an infusion of money or something. But that is one of the largest pieces of open land in the whole city.
Yeah.
It dwarfs Wildwood Park. Dwarfs it. If you look at it on Google Maps, you're like, wow, that's a huge piece of property. So I could see why developers would be interested in it. But that's where some of the most expensive properties in our whole city are, too. Mm-hmm. So I can see that they're going to be fighting a huge battle about this, just like they did with the gas line they tried to put up Valencia.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. So you notice that gas line's not going in there no more? So that's a huge battle. So however you guys decide, I'm not going to make you answer that question, but just know that I did like what you said about less apartments, because it just seems like once they go in there, and if the manager's not taking care of them, they just go bad.
There was a lot of those in the second ward while I was walking out there.
And you can lose your life in those places. Sometimes they're really that unsafe, and we know that from Linwood.
Unsafe, unsanitary, you name it.
And with all the apartments that we have in the city of San Bernardino, there's not one apartment complex that I personally would move into. Now, a person like me would really like to live in an apartment, okay? But if there's not one suitable to, a middle, average, working class mother who doesn't want her kids to be at home by themselves in some ghetto, right? Like, we don't have that. We don't have, like the 300-unit apartment complexes like Rancho Cucamonga, where you have the swimming pool and the weight center. And really, that's like a lifestyle. People have that lifestyle, but then they also get to spend money. When you have those kind of people, it creates a walking environment. People are out walking around, spending their money, generating sales tax dollars. So if we are ever going to build an apartment, build one that's 300 units, that's nice, right. that it might be $1,800 a month rent.
What about the hotel? Could we do something with that? I mean,
no, that's privately owned.
No, it'd be nice if you did.
But the one nice apartments that I did find in the second ward were at the very, very end of the second ward, passing Del Rosa, and passing Elmwood on 21st. There's a whole area of apartments, private, crime-free housing, gated, beautiful, very well maintained. And it's when they abide by the crime-free housing that makes their apartment units very, very nice.
I want to live in the first ward.
Oh. So we got
on F and 6th Street.
We got a little more than 15 minutes. Is there anything that you would like to bring up, Mr. Sanchez?
You mean irrelevant to this?
Yeah. Anything you want. I we brought you on here just because we wanted to give you an extra voice.
Yeah.
You're brand new on the council there with Sandra, and I'm really proud of you're not just you're thinking about before you speak. And when you do speak, it means something. It's not just saying the same thing over and over and over. Yeah.
You're not just talking to hear yourself talk like some people.
Oh.
So could you maybe explain the rationale behind maybe like westbound communications?
Well, you know what? We'll start off with one thing, an announcement, and I'm gonna make this quick. I'll pick my words carefully. So during the campaign for this seat in the first ward, my opponent, I had put out some literature that my opponent, found offensive. So he did file a lawsuit against me, a libel lawsuit. We went to court. My lawyers, on behalf of me, filed a anti-SLAPP, which is an anti-SLAPP suit. So we had our motion granted, and my opponent's going to be has been ordered to pay $3,200 for lawyers' fees.
Oh, so you can't just wow.
Can't just make up what you want.
Oh man.
Good job. So that's all I'm going to say on that. Again, this is what they would. I guess this is how the Superior Court of San Bernardino works now. But what they do is they hand down what's called a tentative ruling on this, and then I guess it's to save time and money. But then what they do is they'll go ahead and they'll
sign the final.
They'll sign the final judgment, and then it gets handed down. So yeah, they've given my opponent 30 days to pay that $3,200.
So now that it's hashed out, and it's gonna suck, the payments and everything suck, but try to, if you can, try to reach an olive branch or hand. This is.
No, I would have liked it because look. It
may happen in the future, possibility.
Because if you want to really look at it, I mean, there's a little bit of a difference in percentage points, but I mean, half the people voted for him. half the people that I'm representing now voted for him. So I reached out to him, but he didn't want to.
To me, he's not such a bad dude. Once you get
look. What he did, he put his neck out there. It took a lot of work.
And lawsuits and all that stuff. Everybody's always egging you on to do things, and sometimes I think
sometimes people might do it, and you're not really okay with it, but you just get stuck having to go on.
because
No, I would love to work with him, and if he's listening, Mr. Botello, please reach out to me. You're a respected individual in the First Ward. Let's get together and help clean up the city.
Yeah, and cool guy all around. I seen him at the cleanups, and he comes to local meetings and stuff. So I just look at it this way: if I can shake Kerry Davis's hand, it is funny seeing him only have 3 minutes and getting told.
I mean, it's funny to me to hear him speak because I was waiting for 5 years to hear him speak. I'm like, dude, what do you mean now you're showing up? I mean. You were set up there literally quiet.
And this is the funniest thing. I thought I only had to listen to him for 4 years, but I got another year forced on me, man. Like, oh my gosh. And people wonder,
Well, I didn't get to meet him until after elections. Put it that way. I wanted a meeting, a one-on-one with him.
Allude to that.
And then after the elections,
after the elections, I was asked several times to meet with him.
They never met with me. They just would send Scott Beard would meet with me or something instead. Yeah.
As like a what is it?
A liaison?
Yeah, no, like it for support from I Love San Bernardino.
Oh,
like the way I looked at it was when they asked if I would support, I was like, I want more time speaking. Period. I think the people should get something. Not me. I'll never ask you two for anything. I would never do that to you. You guys are elected officials. I should get something because I frickin' earned it myself. I did the paperwork right. I got this stuff in, and that's the only way you should ever get anything in this. There's no favoritism. This is for the people. But if someone's going to ask me and say, hey, can I have your support? If I truly believe, I may do it. But I didn't really feel like I wanted to pick a team right there because I didn't think that either of the sides wanted cannabis as much as I did. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, we have a leader in cannabis now that will, I think, move it forward in our city, and we can get a fresh start here with the cannabis community. And I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I know you have common sense and you're fiscally responsible.
Like I tell all those business people, if the community is okay with it,
I'm sure you two ain't gonna go home and smoke a bowl right now, but I believe
I don't smoke it.
We all should have the right to if we wish. And I
will.
And I will. So we got through cannabis, and Valdivia did say next meeting we will be discussing cannabis, and the city manager will be bringing a report. So if you're interested in cannabis, we'll be talking about that next meeting. Anything else you guys would like to bring up?
Expect Art and Guthrie to start working. Start getting built.
That's
soon.
Been on the books for a long time.
We're negotiating their contract, and
that's Scott Beard's largest piece of property in the city, is it not?
Yeah.
Wow.
So expect it to come up to the agenda soon.
It's a beautiful. You'll
I wish they would develop it like if they're not going to build housing plan unit developments. No. I wish they would do it like they did the Renaissance Center over there in Rialto, because that is just a beautiful.
Well, we have the opportunity to generate revenue right there.
Home Depot or any idea?
We cannot disclose.
Oh, okay. Well, I've heard possible. It's gone from Home Depot to everything. But
there are burrowing owls on the site, so Scott's going to have nightmares about those for a while.
I went there last year, and all the wildflowers were blooming, the fiddlenecks and sunflowers. Oh, it was so beautiful. I'm like, there's nothing left of this, but I'm all about San Bernardino needs tax revenue, and we need places for people to live, and we need new things. And they're gonna hopefully they'll redo that whole intersection and off ramp, because it is nuts over there to get by, to get up to the end of Highland there, to go past the freeway exit by Baker's there in Arden. Oh my gosh! Sometimes it takes me 30 minutes. It's nuts. So they need to redevelop that whole area. And I was at a Highland meeting where they were discussing that. Okay. So I think it has to do a little bit of San Bernardino, and now that we're moving forward. Whoa, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else? Oh, I wanted to ask about Westbound. Now, this is my own personal opinion about Westbound. I kind of feel that if you're a public relations company and you say you were San Diego and San Francisco, you wouldn't hire the same one. Why? Because conflict of interest. Same thing. If you're the public relations company for everybody around San Bernardino, it doesn't matter who, even if you had separate teams and they were competing the whole time, the owner of the company would make decisions based on the person who pays the most money.
Wait, so do they have contracts with surrounding cities?
Yes, San Manuel, I believe Highland, all the way around. And it gets to the point to me where how could you really be representing San Bernardino 100% if you got to please all these other people? It's like they had their finger in every pie.
And I was waiting to see a commercial. I was waiting to really see the image change because, I've been the main one griping about all that.
So there's two things there. And again, we're going to disagree, but it's all right. It's all right. I don't think that we live in a zero-sum world, that in order for them to get ahead, we need to take a step back. I think we can all equally find success in some way or another. That doesn't mean that because Westbound promotes Rancho Cucamonga or Upland or some other client in the area, that means that we're here at San Bernardino or somehow taking a step back, or that we're losing some value. I think they can do that all around. But whether they have done that or not in our city, no. I don't think they have, and that's why I moved to have that contract terminated.
I've seen no commercials for San Bernardino, but I have seen commercials for San Bernardino County Fire Department, right? So that tells me, where did all our tax dollars go?
We already know.
To pay for commercials on MSNBC and Fox News for the San Bernardino County Fire Department.
I'm also gonna say something else. This is another example of where we're contracting out something that should be done in-house. John, on the mayor's in the mayor's position, should be our spokesman for the city. Should be our PR guy.
Yeah, it says
because
that in the charter.
Guess what? Over half the city voted to have him. We want to be represented by this individual, and through this successful campaign, he's proven that he's qualified to lead a campaign to promote the city of San Bernardino. The people voted for that.
That's a true statement.
And I'm gonna tell you something. Any mayor who would just silently let his responsibilities relegated to him by the voters of this city, any mayor that would just give that away without an argument is giving up what the people entrusted him to do. They have entrusted John to promote this city. He has proven himself through a very, very effective campaign that he can promote this city.
Well, he got my vote. I don't know. That's pretty good.
And that's why he was asking for this staff, because he needs a staff to promote the city. He needed his communications guy. He needed 3 or 4 people that are going to go out there, talk to people. They'd roll up in a beautiful little white car with the city seal on it, a little clipboard, a tie, and the city seal on their lapel, walking around. Hey, what was the issue you were complaining about? Yep. Oh, that tree that's hanging over your house? We would be the envy of any world-class city if people were like, guess what? When I complain to my city officials about something going on, they show up to my front door and they knock on my door. Now, you tell me if Redlands, Rancho Cucamonga, Ontario, any other world-class city does that.
Nope.
We would be the envy of any world-class city if we did that.
And that people would be happy. And they would start saying things like, this is starting to look more like that all-American city that that they keep aspiring to, which will never be again. But we could.
Why not?
Why not?
That's
no. That all-American city, it had its time. We can be a new all-American city that's represented with different things that are special besides what they had that they considered to be most important. To me, it's like making sure that the potholes are fixed, make sure that people who do have a complaint are heard. And they're not retaliated against, right? That's another thing. You all probably, once you get in there, you don't hear as much as that. A lot of locals are retaliated against by our city, and they're afraid to come to the city because of the possibility of them getting in trouble for it. So, like my dad, this was a constant thing when I grew up. Was you never want to let the city in your property, because then they start looking at everything you got. But what if it was the opposite way? What if like you want the city to come out because you know it's going to be a good thing?
Yeah.
So I think if we strive towards that, we can have a little bit of both. Now, the city has to maintain good code. Of course, we need good code. But we don't need code enforcement coming to Carmel's house just because she's
let me
mayor candidate.
Let me just tell you that I get so sick and tired of hearing people say we need more code enforcement officers. Okay? It's not that we need more code enforcement officers. We need them to more efficiently do their job. Okay? And we actually need you to deal with real problems instead of like, okay, let's just say you went over and you harassed me for $400 at my house. And then I went to court, and then you took up everybody's time, and then you spend money to fight with me, which you're never going to win. Okay? But meanwhile, there's 52 of my neighbors who don't put their trash cans behind their fence. But then 2 blocks and 3 blocks down, you got a guy with the couch on his thing and trash all out, and this guy's getting away with it, and nobody's even calling.
Their name's not Roe.
Yeah, but the thing is that we need good code enforcement officers that work with the people and not just threaten the people or take their money because they say San Bernardino needs money. I mean, San Bernardino is not, people are not rich, and you can't just do people like that, and it's just it's
all
horrible.
right, let's end it. We have 3 minutes left. You can start, Carmel. One good thing we can do in our city to make it better.
We can educate our children to not take no for an answer.
No. Mr. Sanchez.
You know, I hear it all the time that they said, well, our city council meetings used to run more smoothly, used to be 7-0 or 6-0. No, we're a deliberating body. If we disagree and we're having a robust conversation, there is nothing wrong with that. People keep on thinking
better
that
government.
Yeah, people
I
keep
like
on,
it better.
People keep on thinking that if it's not 7-0 or a unanimous decision, that we're somehow dysfunctional. I think it's the opposite.
Yeah, just take a look at our government, how slow it moves.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important to have a divided people because we get something better in the center. Excellent.
Well, I like the dialogue we're having at the council meetings when we make our decisions. That just shows all of our ideas coming together and trying to make the best choice. The other one, I went this Sunday to the community cleanup with We Are the Change already, and I'm finally in better shape to help do some of the raking work. But definitely we can all help pitch in with even picking up a little bit of trash in our
I
neighborhoods.
love We Are the Change, San Bernardino volunteers.
Great
Good
people. Great people.
So
Yeah.
that's what I'm
Luis.
doing.
A little shout out for Luis. We don't always agree, but he's a good dude, and he gets things done. Mr. Al Kelly, how are we going to save it?
Redlands finally has a couple of progressive people. Tony Momberger got elected, Denise Dawn, and we have the reliable Eddie Tejada. So Redlands may be changing its course.
So head to the city council meeting in Redlands. Head to the city council meeting next week on Wednesday at 5. Did we change?
February.
5 o'clock.
February, not next week.
Yeah, next. Oh yeah, we have this.
And I'm
5.
hosting town hall meetings in my ward, second ward.
Okay, I'll post it all on I Love San Bernardino Facebook. Good. Thank you, team, so much for coming on. This is Robert Porter and Carmel Rowe on the I Love San Bernardino County Radio Show, and we are out of here.
Knee deep in the hoopla, sinking in your fight. Too many runaways.
KCAA